Mitchell, you are live to go.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Welcome to end of October. Shoot, we're already end of October in the year. That's kind of crazy. We have a big class tonight. Wow. It's cool to see everybody's getting into the holiday spirit and wanting to drink wine and eat cheese. That's not exactly a bad thing. Yeah, just unmute yourself if you have any questions, comments, epiphanies, or concerns throughout the evening. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk. And if you get annoyed with me talking, I'm sorry. So we're talking wine and cheese this week. Why aren't you going to the next one? I'm assuming everybody's had wine and both cheese in their life. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this class. There are absolutely infinite amount of resources on the internet and published about different styles of wine to cheese with or to pair with different cheeses and so on and so forth. And literally any cooking book or any wine book, you can find probably a wine and cheese article. And definitely play with it, because at the end of the day, like what we've talked in the past in other classes, your palate's your palate. And if you don't like, say, like the cava or bubbles with manchego, like I'm sure you might like something else. So if you have the lineup on the cheeses and a few different wines with you, play with them. I mean, because again, if you just took off our recommendations on like what wines to pair with what cheese, it might not work for you guys as much as it worked for us. So just keep that in mind with everything. So the image I have on this first one, this is off Winefolly, great resource. Totally recommend it to anybody. If you're a master of wine, if you're an amateur, if you're picking up a bottle here and there every once in a while, they're just a great resource. So I totally recommend them. All right. So first off, before we really get into manchego, there's two real key principles with wine and cheese that most of us in the business always kind of go back to. The first one is region to region. So if you're getting a wine from France, you would pair a cheese with from France. If you get a cheese from America, you typically would want to pair a wine from America. Now, being that the caveat is that second kind of rule of thumb is depicting contrast. So if you have a hard cheese, you want like a little bit more of a lighter, crisper wine. So if you have a soft cheese, you want more of a bolder, heavier, bigger wine. So with like manchego, which is like a soft, semi-soft, you can kind of go either way, just depending on your palate again. Have I lost anybody? We all good? This whole everybody muted thing is actually kind of throwing me off here. I might unmute you all. Cool. So manchego. So this producer, the El Trigal, is actually from Spain. So really, really cool producer. Manchego itself is actually a protected name and style of cheese. So you can only technically, legally, according to the European Union, get manchego from the La Mancha part of Spain. And so I paired that cheese today with a cava, which is cava is typically from the Barcelona area. You definitely can taste now. I hope you're eating and drinking at the same time while I'm kind of rambling on. Like in the past, again, with like the chocolate, do wine, cheese, wine. So you always want to kind of taste that wine and then do the cheese and then the wine again, because that way you're really going to see how the flavors are going to change and how they're going to create in your palate with the different textures and flavors of the two. I'm seeing a lot of happy faces, so I'm assuming that's doing pretty decent. Nice. So just a few little facts on the manchego that I have on the side there. Nothing crazy. Again, you could find all these cheeses at Whole Foods. Whole Foods is awesome. If you're a big Costco shopper, Costco's upped their cheese game substantially over the last couple of years. Definitely not Whole Foods status, but they're up there. They've gotten some cool stuff. Pricing, ultimately, cheese is definitely not the cheapest for good cheese. I don't know what Brittany spent on the cheeses tonight.
This manchego is a 6-month Old Manchego. So the longer a Manchego ages, the more like nutty flavor you're gonna get with it. The longer the Manchego ages, the more expensive it's going to be. This one, sorry, I'll just unmute myself permanently. This one's about $13 a wedge. Of course, it goes by weight. So you'll have wedges that are a little bit less expensive, a little bit more expensive. But if you buy it, plan to spend about $13 for a wedge of cheese. It took to do all 45 tastings at the size you guys got. It took about 2 wedges of cube yours. I wouldn't cube it. Normally you would take a cheese, you take a cheese slicer and do a really thin slice of the Manchegos, almost like you would a Parmesan. So you'll do like a really thin slice. Manchego is also really wonderful with quince paste. You can get that at Whole Foods. You can also get it at Trader Joe's, carries the quince paste. It's also really good with fig jam. So like if you do it kind of bruschetta style where you spread the fig jam and then you slide on the Manchego on top, that's usually your 2 most common pairings with your Manchego. Both the quince paste and the fig would go really beautifully with a cava, like Mitchell said.
Cool. Yeah, like I was saying, thank you, Brittany, for that. Because yeah, cheese, it's all going to be by pound, and every grocer or outlet's going to be a little different. And yeah, any cheese, as Brittany was saying, the longer it's aged, the more pungent it's going to be. Especially if you go for any of those blue strains or anything like that, you're going to be very, very pungent. For Manchego specifically, their max age ability is 2 years. So it's 6 months to 2 years. That's what the DOP allows out of that spot in Spain. So kind of cool that they're so protected, but I'm sure their producers over there and their creameries are like, we want to experiment a little bit, but they can't if they want to continue calling it Manchego. Any questions, comments, concerns, epiphanies? We will jump to the next one then. So we're going to kind of travel across Europe at this point. So we went from the center of Spain. Spain is kind of just basically a square for all intents and purposes, a little tilted, but a square. And right at the very north side is France. And in between France and Spain are the Pyrenees Mountains, where Basque country is. And so you've got the Basque of the French and you've got the Basque of the Spanish. Very similar as far as like just the fact that they're almost nomadic. You guys in Fresno, you guys have the Shepherd's Inn. Awesome Basque food if you've never been by the Amtrak station. I know it's a little sketchy on that side of town, but absolutely amazing food for a price point. Highly recommend. And it's like 7 courses. So anyway, in the Basque, you've got the Pete. Istara is the producer itself on this one. This is again sheep milk. So we're staying with sheep for the first 2, and then we're going to go into cow. Out of the Pyrenees, I mean, these guys, like I was saying, they're kind of nomadic. So they are shepherds, they're herders, they're basically doing whatever they can to survive in these mountains as a village as a whole. So you've got one that's doing cream, probably one that's trying to bring in any kind of beans, and then one's probably doing slaughter and butchering for the actual livestock itself. So really cool societies. This cheese itself, I think, is awesome just because, again, you got really cool dimension of flavors on texture as well as the actual aromas on the nose. And this one we're doing, I put on there a Bordeaux Blanc, but any Sauvignon Blanc, any white kind of aromatic wine would have really done well, I think. Again, I paired region to region on this, and kind of that contrast of hard, semi-hard to very crisp and light. Bordeaux Blanc is typically got a little bit of oak, but that Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc in the blend is normally very aromatic and crisp. So I wanted to kind of pair those fruits with that little bit of salty and hardness. Dalton's, I'm going to call on you. Which wine are you pairing with this cheese? Since you said you had them all. You're on mute. Judy, you're on mute.
Hold on, give her a second. I'm trying to unmute you, but it's not letting me from your end. Hang on. Press to unmute. Let's see.
There we
That's
go.
There we go.
Sorry. Yeah. No, we got Ancient Peaks from Paso Robles. I think it's Santa Margarita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's perfect styling because Santa Rita Hills is again a very cool climate. So Bordeaux is definitely a much more of a moderate to cool because it's got so much coastal influence from the ocean right there. How was the pairing?
I haven't done it yet.
Haven't done it yet. What about the Hallbrooks? I'm gonna just start calling on some people to get some interaction here. Now I'm really testing to see how technologically savvy everybody is.
Holbrook's here. We're having, let me see. It's a Rotary rosé, a bubbly rosé.
Okay, that's what you guys are
Trentadoc?
drinking tonight.
Trentadoc.
Tastes a little dry for a rosé.
Yeah, it's a dry rosé bubbly.
Does it say where it's from?
Oh, it's from Italy.
Okay, so it's Prosecco, yeah. So actually, it was just a couple years ago that Italy had actually legally approved the make of sparkling rosé. So Prosecco, up until a few years ago, was only legally allowed to be the grape called Glera, and now it's actually able to use some of the lighter red varietals. You've got everything from what's the varietals that they're using up there? They have international varietals like Pinot on the Veneto side. That or they'll do a little skin contact of Pinot Grigio even, depending on how pink it really is.
I can't get back on.
But that sounds like a fun pairing. All right. Anybody else got a pairing they want to share? I'm trying to float through here, see if I recognize anybody else, but there's a lot of new people. That's awesome. No one wants to share? Kagans, your guys' background's cool. What are you guys drinking over there?
You're unmuted, so.
Talking to
Are
Terry?
you talking to Judy?
No, he's
it's
talking
Ron
to the-
Kagans. They've got the artificial
I couldn't find the one for this. So I'm just drinking, oh, you can't even see it.
Hold it.
I gotta hold it near it. Nope, doesn't work. See, this is what happens when you put a background on. We're just drinking a Zinfandel right now. Just
Oh,
because
perfect.
we don't have the right pairing.
We got an assortment, but this one was missing, so.
Okay, no worries. Again, wine and cheese is one of the most like, at the end of the day, you're pairing wine and cheese. It's not going to be perfect. Like as long as you're enjoying the two pairings, that's literally all that matters. Unless
It's
you're
good.
working in a 3-star Michelin restaurant, and then in which case the chef might bust you for, a pairing option. But other than that, everybody should be good. So there was a cheese on there, the Toma from Point Reyes. We didn't end up getting it, I don't think, for anybody's packet. You said, right, Brittany?
No, and they don't even know about it because they just have numbers. So they don't
They
even
didn't
know
even know about it. Perfect. Okay, never mind then. Scratch those last 4 words. So we're going to jump to the Satori Bella Venato then. This is from the Herbs of Provence. This is a really, really cool cheese as well, but this sounds really Italian, but in French actually at the same time with Provence, but it's actually here in Wisconsin. This is cheese 3, right? Yes. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. I thought I was getting ahead of myself. So we're jumping into cow cheese. So cheese is, you're using a lot of bacteria. That's basically the concept of making cheese, right? You're taking cream and you're curling it basically to make it harder texture and then aging it to whatever density you're really looking for, depending on how flavors you're wanting. Either super pungent, creamy and delicate and like bold. Especially when you have like a triple cream. This is kind of on that more drier side. It's kind of crumbly. It's a little bit more dry. You got a little bit more of those kind of fuller flavors, but still sweet and tangy at the same time. This one I should have been with Zin and Primitivo.
No, this one you had with the Merlot.
I
The
got my-
Gouda, the truffle Gouda you have with the Zinfandel,
That's right. Okay.
which is your next one.
So Merlot, how many drink Merlot in the world? Not a lot of people like Merlot, I feel, anymore because was downplayed in a movie. But hopefully we have some Merlot drinkers. Merlot has great tannins, but at the same time, it also has some really, really awesome fruit. That's why Merlot is the key backbone to any big right bank Bordeaux, as well as even on the left bank, it's used on the back structure. How are we feeling about this one? Terry, how you doing over there? Smiling, happy?
I'm very happy.
Are
Happy.
you doing?
Are you supposed to eat this?
What is this?
The skin.
The skin.
It's not going to kill you. It's not something that I would recommend
So-
per se,
Okay.
but it's not going to
That's
kill you.
not seasoning.
So this one,
It looks
you'll
like it
see-
has herbs.
Yeah, so this one you actually can eat the skin, because this one doesn't have a hard rind. So if the petite basque that you guys had before this had a really like
Eat the skin.
defined crust, you would not want to eat that.
Okay.
This one is a soft one. If someone has a really super fine like yeast or like mold allergy, we wouldn't suggest it, because I mean any aged cheese will have a certain level. So if you have like a really allergy to one of those, like, so I can't eat the rind because I have a yeast allergy, but I can eat the middle. So you wouldn't, but yes, it is made because of the way they do it. They rind, how they do it is they make this cheese and they age it not too long. It's fairly young cheese, but they do age it and then they pull the rind off and then they do a bath, an herb bath. And so basically it's almost like brining the cheese, but they don't brine it with salt. And then they coat the whole thing in herbs and then they let it sit. And then not for very long, but just enough for that herb flavor to really infuse. And then they send it out and then we wedge it up. So you can eat the rind on this one. I would not suggest doing it for either the Manchego or the Petite Basque. That will make your tummy just a bit upset.
Think of it as like sprinkles on a donut.
Yeah, but I will say it is a personal preference. It's kind of like a brie crust. You can technically eat it, but a lot of people don't because they just don't like it. So we left it on so that you could see how it is done with the herbs on the outside and how they infuse that. And it won't kill you.
I have a pet peeve.
We're trying to comply to all the FDA regulations in 2020 here.
I'm not normally a Merlot drinker, but
Where's this
it
going?
pairs great with this cheese. I'm liking it.
Perfect. Are you drinking domestic Merlot?
Jackson Estate.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, Wisconsin, obviously, they're the cheeseheads. They have a ton of different creameries. They're known for a lot of different styles and basically taking any European style of cheese and we can somehow create it in Wisconsin, I feel, by a creamery one way or another. Satori, I've not heard of before when Brittany told me she was picking out this, but from the way I was looking at it, this is actually one of their fairly older creameries over there. It's been a few generations in the family, which is awesome that they've got the distribution for this. Technically, they're still labeled as a small creamery, but it's just really cool that they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, this one is still not too expensive of a cheese. You're probably looking between $15 and $17 a wedge. So still really doable. You'll find wedges, the smaller they are, for a little bit less. Just FYI, when you go to Whole Foods, if there's a wedge, maybe you don't want one as big as they have, you can, for most of their cheeses, ask them and they will cut you a specific one.
Based on the poundage that you want, how much weight you
Yeah.
probably want. Brittany.
Yeah, for most cheeses, they will they will cut you a size specific wedge based on weight, which is really unique and really nice.
No, that's awesome.
May I ask,
I'm sorry, I also wanted to add, we got a local Merlot. It's from Moravia Wines.
Yeah,
It tastes really good with that cheese.
That's awesome.
It's delicious, delicious, yeah.
yeah, absolutely support support all your local vendors all the time, but Moravia for sure. Love those guys. They're doing good stuff. That's awesome that their Merlot's able to. I didn't realize their Merlot did you pick that up from the winery, or was that from like Total Wine, or?
From the winery.
Perfect. Cool. I used to have a relationship with those guys for work, and didn't ever know the Merlot was in distribution. So it's good to know that it's still just at the winery.
Yes, it's a very good Merlot. I believe that they carry it at Total Wine.
Oh, they do now? Okay.
I believe so, yes, because they carry some wines from Moravia.
Mhm.
But this one I got from the winery.
Cool. That's fantastic.
Brittany, which cheese are we on? We got booted off there for a minute. We just got back on.
We're on cheese number 3. So it's going to
Okay.
be the one, it's the Santori Bella Vitano. So it's cheese number 3
Okay,
with Merlot,
with the Merlot. Yeah.
we left you for a while.
And then it looked like the Holbrooks, Brent had his, because Mitchell may obviously, but Brent had his hand up. So Brent,
Oh.
did you have something to add?
Perfect.
Just a comment. When I go to Highland Ranch parties, I notice a lot of people scoop brie out from the center and leave the rind. And all my life, I've been eating the rind, and I think it's delicious. So, Mitchell, do you have an opinion on that?
I'm kind of with you, but I'm still learning to slow down and eat without just eating. Sometimes I'm a big cheese guy. I love cheese. So, and to me, the texture of the rind, again, if it's soft, even like the older, softer rinds are awesome because they give you a totally different dimension on the cheese. So I'm right there with you. Like, I'll probably eat the rind. I mean, there's certain rinds like super hard, like pecorino or anything like that. I probably am not going to eat that rind. But yeah, brie for sure.
Yeah.
But is it okay, Mitchell, to go ahead and take the rind off if you don't like it? I mean, it's not like gauche or something. Yeah.
No, totally. Absolutely. Again, like it's all personal preference at that point. Obviously there's cheese rinds, that are more like wax and stuff like that. Definitely don't eat those. But again, it's all personal preference. 9 out of 10 of the rinds won't kill you, but it's all going to be a matter of what you want to actually ingest. Because they have a different flavor profile than the main core of the cheese. Any other? And again, FDA approving on this would say use at your own risk.
Cheese.
That's nice. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna jump on to the Claire milk. This is the truffle Gouda. So this should be cheese number 4 for you guys. This should be maybe not so pungent as far as like dense, but like pungent just on truffle. I mean, has anybody had black truffle or any major truffle dish before at a restaurant?
Oh, yeah.
Fresh truffles, they're absolutely delicious, but they are extremely forward in flavor. So you having truffle, you're eating truffle. So with this one, I wanted to do just something with maybe just a little bit more of that spice and fruit. So this was the Zinfandel or Primitivo, depending on your pick and what you were able to get your hands on. I was really hoping to get that kind of fruit and spice to go with that pungentity. So hopefully that works for you guys. This is a really cool producer out of Holland. Again, very family oriented, but they are exclusively only sold for Whole Foods here in the United States.
And this is also an exclusive, and even in terms of Whole Foods, there's only 90 Whole Foods in the United States that do carry this. You have to have a cheese expert. at your Whole Foods. And luckily for us, we do. This is going to be the most expensive cheese that you guys are tasting this evening, where the rest are all pretty moderately priced, anywhere between, 10 to, I would say, $15 a wedge. This one's going to run you, even for a very thin wedge, is going to be about $15, $16. For a normal size wedge, you're looking at 25 plus. So this is not one that you put out at a party. This is a one that you have for yourself. You don't want to be buying this for a lot of people. And
If you invite Brittany and I, because we want to come to your parties.
Yeah, this is gonna have a real like a umami that.
Is there a
that's
a good one. Is there like a softer portion of it and a like the two pieces that I have? There's a softer and a more hard portion of the piece.
Linda Holbert just.
So with how Goudas work is the longer it ages, you'll get more towards the edge. Hold on a minute. The longer it ages, the edges are going to kind of get a little bit. So when you guys are tasting, when we cut the wedge, we cut the rind completely off this one, but we tried to leave as much of the cheese as possible, have as much of the cheese left as possible, mainly because it is so expensive and you don't want to waste it. So if you got a part that has a little bit harder amount to it, it's still perfectly edible. It just means that that portion was a little bit closer to the edge where the rind is. If you got a really soft portion, that means you were a little bit closer to the center of the cheese wheel itself, because all of the wedges, when they cut them, it comes in like a triangle wedge. And then when we portion it out, some of course will be closer, some will be farther away. We tried to have each cup have one of each at least, but Goudas especially, you'll always notice that, especially this one, because it is I think it's a double Gouda, double cream Gouda, even though it doesn't say it on there. It's gonna be softer, but the closer you get to the edge, it gets a little bit harder, and that just happens the longer it ages as well.
Oh, okay, so I noticed there was a different flavor in the softer as opposed to the more dense side of it. So the dense side is that
it just gets harder as it gets exposed to the air.
Okay.
Yeah. So how when you age the cheese, anything closer to the outside is closer to being exposed to the air. So you're getting more air. Sorry, I'm watching someone's really crazy background make noise over there. You're getting more airflow, you're getting more of a drying effect. So you actually should have a little bit like a more rich flavor.
Yes.
A little bit there, because you're getting that aged flavor. Whereas as you get closer to the center and there's more moisture, it kind of almost like mutes the flavor just a little bit.
Okay.
So if you have a wheel or something, the outer part is going to be the harder.
Yeah. Holbrooks, Brent, you got a question, comment, concern?
Yeah. I was curious. We're drinking Paso Robles Zinfandel Gesture from J. Lohr.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, I doubt truffle is an American cheese. You had mentioned earlier pairing cheeses with countries from where the wine is.
So so Gouda it comes from two different parts of Europe. Actually, it does come from France and Italy. It's got origins in both countries as far as that style. Unlike the Manchego that's got an actual protection, Gouda does not. So however long ago cheese was created in Europe, you probably had one guy with that style and traveled across the bands. So I put Zinfandel, Primitivo mostly on the Italian side of that. Truffles are a huge part of Italian cuisine as well as French. So that's mostly where I was going. Not everybody can find Primitivo, so I was figuring Zinfandel. If you wanted to go true Italian styling, I would have gone, like Nero d'Avola or something like that. But I mean, what'd you think? Is your Zed doing okay with it, or is it masking one way or the other?
Yeah, I think it's doing okay. And do you have a little computer in your brain, or where the hell do you get all this information?
I spent the last 45 minutes just researching cheese and before the class to make sure that I was on point. When I used to teach the classes at Total Wine, I definitely did a lot of more research on cheese, but haven't in a while. So I had to definitely, and Brittany actually is much more cheese knowledge and savvy than I am. Cause like I said, I just went quick, like fast Google searches on everything.
You both sound like you know what you're talking about.
Prior to class. Well, hopefully we can keep that going then.
So Mitchell,
Yeah.
when do we do the Pinot Noir? I don't see a cheese for that one.
So that was the one that we kind of messed up and skipped.
Okay. We'll just drink it without cheese then, okay?
That's fine. Yeah, absolutely. So the Pinot, where am I on my slide here? That was also a cow-based cheese that was based here out of Point Reyes. And that was going to be definitely, again, much more of like a mellow, softer cheese. It wasn't crazy age, if I remember correctly, but it wasn't young either. So Pinot would have been right there in the middle between these. But yeah, so if you got the Pinot, just enjoy Pinot.
So,
we have a 9er Pinot and we're going to have a little.
your Pinot would also, the one he has on the screen right now, the Belvitano with the herbes of Provence will also pair should really pair nicely with your Pinot as well. Because the Toma that we had in the list, but at the same time, we spent a lot of money on cheese. So we had to pare back a little bit. We felt the truffle cheese was worth it. But that one will also pair well with your Pinot, will also pair well with your Belvitano.
So could you, Brittany, when you give us our list, could you kind of add a couple of cheeses for the Pinot as well?
Yeah, I'll definitely put the Toma on there as well. I'll give you guys a couple of options. I am not the cheese whisperer, but I do have much experience with cheese. It's kind of my thing. My dad's full French, so when we do dinners, cheese is like a big thing. I tried to pick things that were a little bit more unique, but I'll give you guys some more traditional cheese suggestions as well that you can try that would pair nicely with these wines that Mitchell did. So keep it a little bit different.
And on top of that, if you ever do find yourself at Whole Foods, definitely go up and ask the cheesemonger just any questions you can possibly think of, because that's what they get paid to do, is to make sure to curate and find cheeses that you've probably never had before. And I mean, it's just like wine. You kind of go in with a budget. You go, I want to try this style. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm doing. And she's going to be able to give you all the knowledge and cheese options that you can think of. So definitely utilize that if you're ever shopping at Whole Foods over there. Okay, so last cheese that we have for you. I have it listed as the blue Wessendale, but it's also, it's actually a blueberry Stilton. Stylistically and process of how it's made, from my hot second of research and Brittany's experience, they're pretty similar. The biggest difference is the Stilton that you guys are actually enjoying is much more designed for specifically either a morning or a dessert style cheese, versus a Wessendale is a little bit more of that pungent sweetness. The blue in the Wessendale is actually the actual mold of the blue going through the veins, but the cheese itself that remains is extremely fruit and aromatic cheese. So that's why that one is a little bit more of a harder shape or harder style of cheese versus what you have is a little bit more creamy, but very crumbly at the same time.
Yeah, so this one is actually, it's a blueberry. So you should be able to see in most of them, the actual blueberries that are in there. If you've been to our
Blue cheese.
wine or our cheese board nights for our Uncorked, we usually do one once a year where I do a cheese board the length of the
Nice.
island. This is going to be really similar in texture and flavor of the actual cheese to the apricot Stilton that we usually do. The apricot Stilton is what you can get at Whole Foods. It also is available at Trader Joe's. So, it's going to be really, really similar. So if you like the cheese, like the texture and the style, but you don't necessarily love blueberries, you can do an apricot one. It is wonderful. It's got that nice crumbly texture to it, and it's a great dessert cheese.
So we paired this one with a port or a late harvest. Again, we were trying to hit that creamy acid in the cheese, but that sweetness of the blueberries and everything to bounce with the boldness of a port or a late harvest, something with a little bit higher alcohol, but that residual sugar as well. Those wines also though do pair very well with an actual blue Westendale, anything blue actually, that is looking for that astringity because they are so pungent. This one we're going sweet versus pungent.
Strong, but wonderful.
This is a good breakfast cheese. If you go to Europe, this is something that you would find either during the dessert course or served a lot of times at breakfast. So a little bit different.
Or if you're in America just wanting to drink at 9 a.m. and have some cheese with it, it works too.
It's a brunch cheese. It's a great brunch cheese.
We're equal opportunists here in America for our cheese on doors. Yeah, Brent.
That is awesome with wine, with port.
We're drinking it with the late Zinfandel, and it's so yummy.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, that's wonderful.
Again, cheese it can go one of two ways, really. You either have that massive contrast, or you just want to line it up to the T on similarities. So this one we're trying to line up.
I want more.
Anybody else think this works, or is
No.
I don't like the sweet and sweet.
Glad you didn't see my face. That was not good.
not a problem. So
I like it. I ate hers.
Who is the one that didn't like it?
Michelle.
Michelle, what else are you drinking over there?
So I tried it with the Tobin James late harvest Zinfandel,
or as Bruce would say, liquid love.
Liquid love. That's how it's labeled. Yep.
And
you got it down.
it was very strong.
Yeah, it's a lot of flavor when you're putting those two together. If you have, I don't remember if you guys said you had one. Do you have the bubbles? Did you guys have bubbles?
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they had a bubbles or even like a Sauvignon or something white.
Like a Sauvignon Blanc?
Try it with a Sauvignon Blanc, yeah.
Yeah, that may pair really well for you.
Okay, we'll try it.
We'll try it another, yeah.
See, this is really these classes, especially this. I mean, because again, like one, we're not there with you guys, but two, this is your guys' palate. So the recommendations that we're giving, hopefully they work, and these are going to be more like the classic, like traditional pairings. But I want you guys to be pairing, especially if you have multiple bottles open. You might as well enjoy them while they're open. Taste them with the different cheeses, because you might find like with this one, you've never tasted it before, or two, like, wow, that Sauvignon Blanc actually goes really well with the herbs versus.
Well, she's going to give us a list. No, she will.
Yes, Brittany will send out a list, whoever was at the Daltons. Yeah, we'll send you out a list.
Forgot to mute.
We'll send you out a list. Any other questions on cheeses, wines? The big thing with cheese on top of that, most people are always doing either crackers or bread. To me, that's a crucial pairing aspect because the density of the bread, the style, and the crunch of the cracker. This is all the fun parts of the holidays. I mean, whatever way you feel politically or whatnot, I mean, it's still food time, whether how many people you have or not. But this is kind of the fun time to, you know, try in different pairings. So, I mean, sourdough with like the Stilton might not be your thing, but like sourdough with a little bit of like sec or something like that would be probably pretty good. So it just depends on what kind of pairing, and this is the really fun, exciting part of the holidays, I think. I don't know what's happening here. There's no number 5 tasting, right? Or yes, there are.
Yeah, it's always interesting to try.
That was number 5.
Yeah, I was just catching up on the chat. I hadn't been looking at that earlier and
Oh, okay.
got myself a little sidetracked on those. So those are the cheeses that we have. The last slide that I really have is to talk about next month for you guys. It's going to be November 19th. That's what Brittany and I had talked about. Is that still correct, Brittany? So next month,
yes.
if we have people that are interested in signing up and everything, we have a really, really awesome winery that wants to get in front of you guys, and the winemaker and owner, Jason Driscoll, he's a really good friend of mine. Him and his wife own this winery. They are one of the smallest producers in the company that I work for their distribution book. So they were wanting to get in front of the Fresno market and an awesome group of wine drinkers. So they're willing to offer this at a really cool price point, I think. They're basically charging what they charge the distributor to sell their wine at. So it's 5 bottles of wine with tax for $110. And that's full bottles. So you don't have to drink them all that night for the tasting. You can give them away for gifts. You're basically shopping for the holidays and drinking and getting a chance to talk to a winemaker all at the same time, which I think is really, really awesome. Everything they do is mostly Sonoma and Napa. The Zin is Sonoma and Lodi and Mendocino. Just awesome expressions of wine. So we wanted to kind of let everybody know about it now because we're already, 2 weeks away?
Yeah, almost 3, but just
almost
under.
3. So we'll want to definitely make sure that everybody can get their order in prior. That way we can get the wine shipped down there for you guys, and everybody can get their 5 bottles set to them.
Yeah. And then I think Mitchell, we're gonna leave the link open so that way if you take the class and you want to order after, because
perfect. I don't have a link on this, but we can definitely we can set something up that way. Yeah, Brent.
Brittany, can you mail us a list? I think we're definitely interested in participating.
Yeah, so we'll email out the list and a few things probably next week, the beginning of next week, when we send out Mondays or Tuesdays email. So we'll get it out to you guys so you guys can get going on it. We'll get a link ready and prepped so that way it makes it easy for you guys.
Yeah, to comment again on how good that last cheese was with pork. Oh my God.
Mitchell?
Yeah.
Is there any way that we could do some kind of a pairing with this wine thing?
For this next month for wine?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What kind of pairings would interest you guys?
Well, whatever you got.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something that, we get enough feedback when Brittany sends out, especially to the rest of everyone and everyone that's signed on. I'm helping. These guys are, again, they're friends of mine. They only make about 3,000 cases for total production out of all those varietals. So you're not going to find them anywhere. So You guys would definitely get a little bit more of an exclusive access, which is really cool, I think. Pairing wise, man, I don't know. Like maybe I'll just get a bunch of different turkeys and cook turkey in a bunch of different.
There you go.
All right. What you got?
Judy, I'm sure the social committee could come up with some amazing pairing for this, and we can discuss that.
I
I
bet
can figure it out.
a pairing would
That
be
sounds
awesome.
great. Another carrot.
Absolutely. So, and you know, Jason, he's a classically trained chef. He was a chef at Bouchon up in Napa, 2-star Michelin. So, I mean, if you guys want to do a food and something, he definitely will geek out and get all into it and all about it. So yeah, I'm all about trying to figure out if we can put some kind of pairing ideas together, Brittany, on that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
If we're gonna, I'm gonna pause, I'm gonna stop the recording. I'm not kicking anyone off. So I'm gonna pause and stop the recording so that way we've got that done. And then that way I can pull us off Mitchell being highlighted so Mitchell can see everyone. And you guys can chat a little about what you like. We can